A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Vishnu Bhavam Sabhadavati Kachaya Sto Jaya Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasika Prabhupada ki Go Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We shall discuss today, third canto, chapter 25, the glories of devotional service. text 25. This is a famous festival verse. And so this is a glorious festival. We thought to hear and chant this keynote festival verse spoken by Lord Kapila Dev to his mother, Devahuti. And he refers to his mother as Sadhvi, the feminine version of Sadhu. He's referring to his own mother as, "Oh, virtuous lady, you're a saint, Sadhvi." He's just described to her the qualities of the sadhu. And he's pointing out that without attachment to saintly persons, you cannot cut off material attachment. There must be attachment to something. So this festival is a wonderful opportunity to become attached. But not in the way we ordinarily. We don't need any encouragement for that. This festival is a wonderful opportunity to become attached to the association of devotees. And we'll be speaking about that today. Before I chant the verse, let's refer back to Srila Prabhupada's purport in the preceding verse, in which Kapila Dev, as I said, refers to his mother as Sadhvi. He says that the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is there to help people get free from all material association. If anyone has reached the stage where he must become free from this material contamination, then he has to seek the association of devotees, wherein Krishna consciousness is exclusively cultured. One can thereby become freed from all material association. So one thing we can keep in mind for this festival is that we want to become the type of devotees who can inspire others to cut their attachments to the material world and progress on the path of bhakti. That's everyone's mandate. Political parties, when they think they've won a crushing victory, they say, "Oh, we've got a mandate from the people." Regardless of all that. Our mandate is to develop as bhaktas so that people will be inspired to take up devotional service to Krishna. We impress them with our knowledge and with our qualities. And then they can see the practice, the lifestyle. Yes. What is producing such humility, such sincerity, and such knowledge? Satam prasangan mama virya samvido. Bhavanti hritkarna rasayana kata. Tajjoshanaras Bhagavatmani. Shraddharatir bhaktir anukramishti. Satam prasangan mama virya samvido. Bhavanti hritkarna rasayana kata. Tajjoshanaras Bhagavatmani. Shraddharatir bhaktir anukramishti. Satam prasangan mama virya samvido. Bhavanti hritkarna rasayana kata. Tajjoshanara srupabhaga vartmani. Shraddharati bhakti anukramishiti. Satam of pure devotees. Prasangat through the association. Mama, my. Virya, wonderful activities. Samvida, by discussion of. Bhavati, become. Hrit, to the heart. Karna, to the ear. Rasa, yana, pleasing. Kata, stories. Tat, of that. Joshanat, by cultivation. Ashu, quickly. Apavaga, of liberation. Vartmani, on the path. Shraddha, firm faith. Rati, attraction. Bhakti, devotion. Anukramishati, will follow in order. Translation. In the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed, and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. Purport. The process of advancing in Krishna consciousness and devotional service is described here. The first point is that one must seek the association of persons who are Krishna conscious and who engage in devotional service. Without such association, one cannot make advancement. Simply by theoretical knowledge or study, one cannot make any appreciable advancement. One must give up the association of materialistic persons and seek the association of devotees. Because without the association of devotees, one cannot understand the activities of the Lord. Generally, people are convinced of the impersonal feature of the Absolute Truth. Because they do not associate with devotees, they cannot understand that the Absolute Truth can be a person and have personal activities. This is a very difficult subject matter, and unless one has personal understanding of the Absolute Truth, there is no meaning to devotion. Service or devotion cannot be offered to anything impersonal. Service must be offered to a person. Non-devotees cannot appreciate Krishna consciousness by reading the Srimad Bhagavatam or any other Vedic literature wherein the activities of the Lord are described. They think that these activities are fictional, manufactured stories, because spiritual life is not explained to them in the proper mood. To understand the personal activities of the Lord, one has to seek the association of devotees. And by such association, when one contemplates and tries to understand the transcendental activities of the Lord, the path to liberation is open, and he is freed. One who has firm faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes fixed, and his attraction for association with the Lord and the devotees increases. Association with devotees means association with the Lord. The devotee who makes this association develops the consciousness for rendering service to the Lord, and then, being situated in the transcendental position of devotional service, he gradually becomes perfect. Translation, please repeat. In the association of pure devotees. In the association of pure devotees. Discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation. And thereafter he is freed. And his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional service begin. Om Agana Chimadandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshud Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You may be quite curious about the first thing that Lord Kapila Dev says in this verse. Satam, for Sangha. Through the association of pure devotees. So you may think, well, okay, that sounds great to me, but all I see around me are, yeah. I mean, they're pretty good on some days of the week. On other days, maybe they're a bit of a pain in the neck. I can't figure them out, and they can't figure me out. But yeah, the association of devotees, but the association of pure devotees, okay. That's the problem. We have no pure devotees, therefore I feel no need to go to bend over backwards associating. It all adds up. I've got my excuse. No. The Acharyas explain that pure devotee includes the ripe and the unripe, as long as both the ripe and the unripe are properly situated. You've heard the example, but maybe you haven't thought about it so much. An unripe mango, if it's properly situated on the windowsill in the sun, it will ripen. So in that sense, it's a ripe mango. It's the same as a ripe mango. Then again, if you want to distinguish more minutely, obviously the ripe mango is already ready to eat. But in just a while, as long as the unripe mango stays on the windowsill in the sun, it will be ripe. So in that sense, anyone who has made Krishna their exclusive shelter, whether they are in the unripe stage, the ripening stage, or the mature stage, they are pure devotees. Okay, got that? So that's the first step in properly seeing the devotees around you. So what happens, or what should happen, in that association of pure devotees? Discussion of the pastimes and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We've heard in the purport Srila Prabhupada saying that it's very difficult to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead without the association of his devotees. How many of you fully appreciated the deity? Shri Shri Radha Giridhari, Shri Shri Nitai Gaurachandra, Shri Shri Panchatattva. As soon as you walked in for the first time and saw them, yes. On my own, I understand this is the Supreme Personality of God. Maybe there are some of you, but not too common, huh? But in the association of devotees, you detected a certain experience, a certain reality. And you acted on that detection. You acted on that appreciation. And then you started to swim in the water, so to speak, naturally. Maybe at first it was a little clumsy for you.
I remember, here's an example, when I was, how old? Oh, maybe 46. That's when I started to learn how to swim. And everyone in New Zealand knows this is, you learn how to swim when you're a little infant. But, I'm from New York and, didn't have time for swimming. Everything was nightclubs, cafes, and all that kind of thing. Who wants to swim? So, there I was. I got a private tutor at the pool in Auckland. And that was okay, but around me were all these little kids, 3 and 4 years old, and they were just looking at me and laughing. What's wrong with this guy? He's that old, he doesn't know how to swim? And the kids were just, there I was trying to do bilateral breathing, And the tutor was telling me, be patient now, be patient, don't let the kids disturb you. Through proper association, we develop a vision of the deity, a vision of so many aspects of devotional service. This is why, without that association, we'll remain impersonalists. It's often said that the default position for being in the material world, for our being in the material world, the default position is impersonalism. I explained this last weekend at New Varshan. When you get a new phone or a laptop or desktop, the software is set to default positions. If you want to play around with the settings, you've got to go into the system and untick this box or check that box. So the default position that your hardware, your existence comes with in this world is impersonalism. It's very difficult, even for those who say they are theists, to appreciate that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has name, form, qualities, and activities. Even the rare persons, at least in New Zealand, who say, I'm a theist and I'm really religious, they have no definitive knowledge. That means no personal knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All right, so in some religions they focus on the representative of God because that's more appreciable to them. There's name, form, qualities, and activities of the Savior, the Redeemer. But what about the Father? Jesus Christ constantly referred to his Father, but scant information is given. So this shows you that even in terms of monotheism, where there's acceptance of the Supreme Godhead, there is no specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. You develop an affinity for that reality by associating with devotees. The katha, the talks about Krishna, become sweeter and more powerful in the sangha of devotees. And please be keen and eager to detect that during this festival. Because so many devotees are chanting together, because so many devotees are hearing together, the talks are more powerful and sweeter than what you could do on your own. This is part of bhakti mysticism. The talks become more potent. And as your taste increases, the taste that you can detect as it increases, what's happening actually is the door to freedom from material existence is swinging wide open. Taste for Krishna Katha, that Namaruchi, Katha Ruchi, that taste is a scientific experience in which freedom from the modes of material nature is happening. So much of our bhakti life is about emphasizing hearing in good association, because that inspiring association speeds up the whole process. So Lord Kapil Dev is saying, by cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is free. There'll be no satisfaction, there'll be no fulfillment as long as we look for that in material nature. That very looking for satisfaction and fulfillment in material nature means we are slaves. In illusion, we think, oh, I'm just making my options, making my choices. That's what being an independent citizen in the material world is all about. No. You're going deeper into slavery because of misconceiving that there's satisfaction and fulfillment in that material energy. It's a disease. And this is why we sometimes feel sluggish in our chanting. We're affected by a virus, which is hope for material enjoyment. As long as that hope is boiling in our system, so to speak, boiling feverishly in our system, we feel a little struggle, or sometimes a massive struggle in chanting Hare Krishna. And then we often make the mistake of blaming the mantra. Yeah, I believe in Krishna. Yes, I took initiation. But let's face it, not everyone can get into the chanting as a daily practice. I mean, I do chant from time to time, don't get me wrong. I actually think that Krishna appreciates our chanting more when, what? We do it when we feel like it. Hare. So I know many devotees are struggling with this apparent lack of taste in chanting. You gotta force yourself to do it. I'm tired of pretending. We'll become more humble when we fully accept our disease state, the virus. And then, understanding the virus and how it works, we want to become healthy again. Still, even in the recuperative stage, there is taste. But because we're so dog stubborn with our attachment to the material energy, we can't see what's happening to our own consciousness. We can't see what's happening with our own tongue. That yes, taste is there, but I'm oblivious to it. It's knocking on my door, but I'm preoccupied with my material aspirations. So this is our problem. Preoccupation with the material energy, so much so that we can't see Lord Chaitanya's mercy happening even in our neophyte stage. Rupa Goswami explains what in Sri Upadeshamrita? Syat Krishna Nama Charitari Satapya Vidya Pitopatasya Rasanasya Daruchikanu. Says naturally, Krishna Nam is as sweet, for example, as sugar candy. But our existence is infected by avidya. The example he gives is like someone who has a liver disease. You can give them the sweetest thing to eat and it tastes so bitter to them. Still, the traditional cure for many liver diseases, according to Ayurveda, is to eat something sweet. And you know that you're getting healthy when you start detecting the natural sweetness that's in your mouth. Whereas for weeks while you were ill, you couldn't detect that natural sweetness. In fact, what is sweet to you tastes bitter. So this is what happens with our chanting. And sometimes we get discouraged. Oh, why should I go on with this? Oh, just see what the material energy is doing to my consciousness. That's where I'm really at. I might as well just surrender to it. I often point out that every devotee needs his or her experience in rescuing yourself through hearing and chanting about Krishna. Every devotee needs that personal victory. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtana. Not simply the victory in terms of mass distribution of bhakti to others, but your own personal victory that I was being assaulted by the illusory energy. My consciousness was awash in Maya. I was flooded with the modes, and I fought back by absorbing myself in hearing about Krishna, chanting about Krishna. I clung to that no matter what, and I came through on the other side. Hare Bol! Everyone needs that experience. And then you're really on solid ground in your developing of bhakti. Have some appreciation for a battle, in other words. Don't become intimidated. And I often explain how the illusory energy will intimidate you. You'll say, okay, I'm feeling a bit contaminated. My consciousness is hallucinating, seeing hope for fulfillment in the material energy. All right, I'll pick up my japa beads, or I'll start reading Srimad Bhagavatam. But then, you don't expect all the time the illusory energy is going to give up so easily. All right. As soon as you touch the book and open it, as soon as you finger your beads, I'll back off. Doesn't work like that sometimes. Sometimes your cage really gets rattled, right? And it's like the illusory energy is roaring in your ear. You're gonna continue to suffer like this. I'm going to continue to saturate your consciousness with material desires. Just see you've chanted 1 extra round, 2 extra rounds, 3 extra rounds, and I'm still in your face. You've read 5 pages of Bhagavatam, and I'm still pounding on your door. You've got to understand, this is the standard intimidation program by the illusory energy. It's intimidating. It's designed to make you give up. You'll never control your senses. Don't you remember what you used to do? Or don't you remember if you didn't do it before, you'd like to do it now? Srila Prabhupada said a very interesting thing about this intimidation program by illusory energy. Sometimes he said it can be the super soul in your heart presenting options to you. Remember this? Is that what you want? Or do you want what I give? And by constantly making the right choice, choosing Krishna, you become stronger. Your choice muscles develop. It's like someone who's training their muscles, lifting weights. It's a steady program of incremental increase. Similarly, challenges from the illusory energy are a chance for us to strengthen our muscles that choose Krishna. Because there has to be a choice. Otherwise, as you know, there cannot be love. Lord Kapil Dev is wanting to send you onward, past even the stage of bhajana kriya, performing devotional activities, past anartana vritti, the stage of cleansing the bad habits. He wants to send you on to nishta, being fixed in rendering devotional service. He wants you to get ruchi, taste, and then asakti, attachment for Krishna. We all know how to be attached, but how can that same power of attachment be rightly executed? And then our goal is bhava, the preliminary stage of love. And beyond, of course, is praying. So we have to be progressive in our spiritual life. Otherwise, we'll be doubtful and blame it on the process, right? I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been doing this for 20 years. Where am I at? Well, I'm just at the same old place. I haven't really made any progress. I know the bhakti process works for some, but not for all. Do we blame our offensive chanting?
No.
Do we blame our inattentive hearing of Krishna Katha?
No.
Why? What do you mean that I am not hearing attentively? I went to class 2 weeks ago. Last month I read a chapter last month of Bhagavatam. Last weekend, when I had some free time, I made a special effort for a few minutes to hear my japa. But get busy, things happen. People call you up, social media, We have to know what to blame and how to be victorious. As I said, we need our personal victory. It's nice to hear others' victory, right? But what about you? You'll become on a rock-solid foundation when you have a personal victory that I can make it through the fog of illusion to the bright light by chanting and hearing about Krishna. You should try it when your boat is being rocked by the waves, the storm of illusory energy. Just say, all right, I'm just going to chant my way through it. I'm going to Bhagavatam my way through it. I don't care about the intimidation, the discouragement that will hit me at first. Another way of looking at material existence, the acharyas say, is like a flowing river. And you're trying to get out of that flowing river to the shore. But the current is strongest near the shore. In other words, don't think the illusory energy is just going to back off as you get closer to Krishna. It's good that we have to try harder the closer we get. And Krishna is always there to help us, even though the current seems to be stronger near the shore. The more we value the association of devotees, the more precious our spiritual life becomes. Associating with devotees is a great sport, and here at the festival, you get a chance to realize that, to experience that. Devotees from all over. And here's how to profit from their sangha. Consider every devotee as having something to teach you. And this way, your life will be very interesting. So many devotees from so many different backgrounds. How do they take up bhakti? What is their unique service and the unique way they're doing that service? You'll be fascinated. Impersonalism for us can mean that we become indifferent to devotees. Just like even in a family arrangement, a household arrangement, indifference can predominate. I'm with this person all the time. What else is new? Same old, same old. I'm with these devotees all the time. What else is new? Same old, same old. Often they don't agree with me. Often I don't agree with them. Often I think they do things in a strange way. They think I do things in a strange way. Anyway, what does it matter? We're all Vaishnavas. Let's just all stay in our own particular dimension, our own particular universe. Leave it at that, huh? This is indifference. Of course, if that indifference happens in a marriage, then practically speaking, it's over. Unless there's some rekindling. And similarly, in the association of devotees, if that indifference happens, it means we're losing out on the benefit that Lord Kapil Dev is describing in this verse. Satam prasangam mamavir samvado. The taste of hearing and chanting about Krishna becoming sweeter and more powerful. So impersonalism can mean that we just become indifferent, too familiar, hardened. We don't say these things to another devotee, but we can feel that. Look, I've been seeing you for 20 years, and same old, same old. In this way, we fail to see how Krishna's mercy is happening right before our eyes. Now, another definition of impersonalism, though, is not indifference, but expecting every devotee to immediately have no faults. Srila Prabhupada says that is impersonalism. Shocking, huh? Often we become so expert at seeing faults, right? Why is this? Why is that one doing that? But think about it. Impersonalism also means that you don't allow for the idiosyncrasies of other devotees, and even you don't allow for them to apparently be mistaken. Now, of course, this is no excuse for letting offenses happen, letting mismanagement happen. No, but try to understand what Prabhupada's getting at. And I'll read it to you. A very beautiful letter that he wrote. So you can see this kind of difficult subject to grasp, how impersonalism can mean not being able to accommodate the errors of others, errors on the way to Krishna. In other words, they're unripe mangoes, and you're not allowing that if they stay on the windowsill, they'll get ripe. You're slamming them immediately like, what is this? Srila Prabhupada says that this kind of impersonalism comes from our false concept of utopia. Immediately we expect perfection from every devotee. You're on the windowsill, so why aren't you ripe immediately? Why do you act like this? Why do you do that? I'm not going to see all the service you're doing. I'm not going to see all the service you've done. Doesn't matter. You are weird. And worse, you think I'm weird. So let's hear. So Prabhupada is taking impersonalism. He's elaborating on a different aspect, another aspect. He says, it is not so much that because there may be some faults in our God brothers and God sisters, or because there may be some mismanagement or lack of cooperation, that this is due to being impersonalist. No. It's the nature of the living condition to always have some fault. Even in the spiritual world, there's some fault and envy. Sometimes the gopis will quarrel over Krishna's favor. And once, Krishna was so much attracted to Radharani that by mistake, he tried to milk the bull instead of the cow. And sometimes when the gopis used to put on their dress and makeup for seeing Krishna, they would be too much hasty and smear kumkum and mascara in the wrong places. And their ornaments and dresses would appear as if small children had been trying to dress themselves. They were not very expert like that. There are so many examples, but it is not the same as material fault or material envy. It is transcendental because it's all based on Krishna. This point takes a lot of thought because you can't take it in an extreme way. Oh, anytime someone's pointing out faults, oh, you're being impersonal. My faults are all transcendental. You have to see the points clearly in the context that's given. It takes some depth. But it is not the same as material fault or material envy. It is transcendental because it's all based on Krishna. Sometimes, when one gopi would serve Krishna very nicely, the others would say, "Oh, she has done so nicely. Now let me do better for pleasing Krishna." That is envy, but it's transcendental, without malice. Jealousy, envy, malice in the material way, as you know, means someone does something and you try to drag that person down. You try to diminish their glories. Nah, it wasn't so great what you did. But the transcendental envy described here in the spiritual world is about how one devotee says, one gopi says, "You've done so nicely, I'm going to do better." So the result is that Krishna's service increases. Not that you try to drag the other devotee down, minimize the other devotee. So, we should not expect that anywhere there is any utopia. Rather, that is impersonalism. Many of you came to the Bhakti Association because you thought everything will be perfect in terms of everyone's behavior and dealings, right? And then it was a rude awakening for you when someone misunderstood you, someone mistreated you. Oh, how could this happen in the society of devotees? I used to be like that, I confess. Many devotees were like that. You've seen all the perfections of the material world. During my university years, my associates were now they're the most highly placed persons in the world. But even then, as a materialist, I knew these people have so many faults. Is there something else? And then the world of bhakti opened up to me by Prabhupada's mercy. And I thought, hey, here is perfection as I understand it, and as I want. So when I first started seeing that, besides me, others had faults. How could this be? I remember the first time I heard, this was 1973, I heard that a senior devotee, that meant he had been practicing bhakti for 3 years, a senior devotee suddenly disappeared and went back home. I remember, how could this be? And back then you got second initiation quick, so he was second initiated. You got initiated after 6 months, and second initiation 6 months later, a senior Vaishnava, 3 years, and he went away. I remember asking the other senior devotees who had been around for 5 years, what happened? Why did he leave? How could that be? So I had that utopian concept, which Prabhupada is speaking about. So we shall not expect that anywhere there is any utopia. Rather, that is impersonalism. People should not expect that even in the Krishna conscious society there will be utopia. Because devotees are, get this, persons. Therefore, there will always be some lacking. Oh my God. But the difference is that they're lacking because they've given up everything to serve Krishna. And then he describes how they gave up everything. Money, jobs, reputation, wealth, big education, everything. Because they've given up everything to serve Krishna, their lackings have become transcendental. It's hard to understand, isn't it? Next time a devotee yells at you and you say, well, he or she's given up everything, so this is all transitory. This requires deep thought. This is bhakti yoga, and it's depth. Despite everything they do, their topmost intention is to serve Krishna. Look at the topmost intention. Prabhupada continues, the devotees of Krishna are the most exalted persons on this planet, better than kings, all of them. So we should always remember that. And like the bumblebee, always look for the nectar or the best qualities of a person. Not like the utopians, who are like flies, who always try to go to the open sores or find the faults in a person. Or because they cannot find anyone without faults, they want to become void. They want to merge, become nothing. They think that is utopia, to become void of personality. Really deep, isn't it? Nirvishesha shunyavadi, pashtaka dharani. The default position in the material world, impersonalism and voidism. Devotees, they're not all perfect. In fact, all of them I know have their weird ways. I know what to do. I'll just make it all zero. That's it. I cut myself off from this association of devotees. Instead, we look at the topmost intent of every devotee. And always remember to look for the nectar like bumblebees, not like flies going to the open sores. So if there is some slight disagreement between devotees, it is not due to impersonalism, but it is because they are persons. Ooh, that's a reverse way of thinking of it. I'll repeat. So if there is sometimes slight disagreement between devotees, it is not due to impersonalism, but it is because they are persons. And such disagreements should not be taken very seriously. The devotee is always pessimistic about the material world, but he is very optimistic about spiritual life. So in this way, you should consider that anyone engaged in Krishna's service is always the best person. So the disagreements are because you're dealing with persons. That doesn't mean we excuse offenses. That doesn't mean we don't correct mismanagement. But let us not forget, we're dealing with persons. And those persons, when we're all hearing and chanting about Krishna together, like the opportunity this festival gives, those persons allow for the increase in taste in hearing and chanting about Krishna. Those same persons who we think they bug us, but are getting in the way of our plans to serve Krishna, those same persons, during the kirtan, during the Bhagavatam classes, they are allowing for the taste to intensify and become more powerful. We need them. And gradually, as you ripen on this windowsill of bhakti in the sun, as you ripen, you start to realize more and more, I need these other sadhus and sadhvis. Because I want to attain bhava, at least the preliminary stage of love of Krishna. I don't want to simply execute bhakti because I have to. I want to be spontaneous about it, greedy about it. Even though that greed for Krishna is so rare, that's what I want. So I need to start working on my daily spiritual practices. And even though I may be just doing them because of getting the quantity done, that's something. Without executing our quantity without keeping our vows, how do we ever get to the spontaneous stage of spiritual greed, spiritual lust? It doesn't happen. We make such a big deal about 16 rounds. But in the real stage of chanting Hare Krishna, the chanter is thinking, why just 16? Why not 16 million rounds? Oh, that sounds mind-boggling, doesn't it? But that is a real state of consciousness, as Rupa Goswami describes. He wrote a verse like that, and when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw that verse, Lord Chaitanya was amazed. When I chant Hare Krishna, I wish I had thousands of tongues, thousands of ears. That's chanting in the liberated or pure stage. And we should aspire for that. We can use this festival as a chance to repair our hearing and chanting habits. You may be an older devotee, you may be a brand new devotee, and somehow or other your hearing and chanting has become so mechanical, and actually you put it aside, more or less. Then how are you going to experience Krishna? You'll just be a religious believer. How boring. But bhakti is about spiritual experience. Experiencing Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes. We have to be career-minded in bhakti, so that we're progressive. Just like in terms of material activities, you may be doing this occupation or that occupation. Someone asks you, well, how's your career doing? Most of you working in the government world or the business world or whatever, medical profession or any kind of job. You're thinking, well, how can I progress in this career? Is there room for mobility above me, or is there a glass ceiling? Someone will tell you, now that job you have it leads to nowhere. 40 years from now, you're going to be stuck at the same level. You've got to find something more progressive that allows you to climb the ladder. So we think like that about our material affairs, right? But what about our bhakti? The greatest career. We should be progressive. How am I going to go up through the levels? If I can't even execute my vows quantitatively, what's the hope of tasting the quality? Still, quantity is something. Quantity means something. It means some basic integrity. Think about Haridas Thakur. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to see him in Jagannath Puri and asked him, how are you doing? And Haridas Thakur replied, I'm sick. What is that? Illness? I'm not finishing my rounds. Of course, you know, Haridas Thakur was accustomed to chanting basically 22 and a half hours out of 24. That's what he called doing his rounds. But speaking as a conditioned soul, he told Mahaprabhu, I've got a disease, I can't finish my rounds. And Mahaprabhu told him, look, everyone knows you're a Namacharya. You are far beyond the point of having to worry about fulfilling a chanting vow. But still, Haridas Thakur was concerned about that. So sometimes devotees would bring up to Prabhupada that quantity is not so important. What about the quality? And it's true, quality is more important, but Prabhupada was nailing them for where they're at. So, oh, you think you're so beyond quantity, eh? You think you're a big devotee, that immediately you should have quality, and you are minimizing the value of quantity? So he would reply, you just do your quantity, You can't force when the quality comes, but you try for it. But you can't force it. You can't force love. I don't know, maybe some of you have tried that. Doesn't work. You execute your bhakti being desirous of higher heights. And when it comes, it comes. We have to have aspirations, but not disappointments. Oh, I'm so impatient. The love is not happening. The taste, the ruchi is not happening. You're in the most upwardly mobile occupation. Being Krishna's devotee. There's no glass ceiling over your head blocking you from rising. But because we think materially, we become so impatient so quickly. So that's why we need to come together in here. Come together and chant. Come together and dance. And in this way, Lord Chaitanya's mercy becomes more apparent than when we're on our own, in our homes. So this is how our spiritual life can be reignited. In the association of devotees who are striving. At least they're doing the quantity, and they're aspiring for the quality. In their association, it's easy for newcomers to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we can see that association with devotees means association with Krishna. Now, one last point, and we'll end for the morning. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur points out some fine print. According to the quality of those who are doing the hearing and chanting, that determines how high on the scale of progress you'll make from that hearing. If the person is not so established in bhakti, by hearing from them, at least you'll be able to be at the stage of bhajana kriya, engaging in devotional service. But if that speaker is more potent, then you'll be propelled to the higher levels that Rupa Goswami describes. You'll become nishta, fixed, ruchi, you'll have a taste, asakti, you'll become attached to Krishna, and even bhava, on up to prema. So yes, everything is personal. So by the different potencies of the speakers and hearers, different levels of bhakti become immediately apparent. But don't minimize even if a neophyte speaks, because that effect will establish someone in bhajana kriya, devotional service, or remind others who are already established in bhakti. Remind them that they need to engage in devotional service. So everything has value, and yet there is higher value, higher and higher. Because love is dynamic, and bhakti is real love. Therefore, you can't bottle it up. You can't artificially manufacture it. You can't artificially hurry it. And there are different levels of intensity. And older devotees, especially those of you who've been around more than 15, 20 years, you should be thinking about aspirations. We'll talk more about that tomorrow when we go to the forests of Vrindavan and hear about Krishna playing with the cowherd boys. Picnic lunch. It all began when Krishna desired to have a picnic. Everything started from Krishna's desire to enjoy another. So now you have a festival. Merciful devotees desired, let there be a festival. Everyone is reeling from COVID restrictions. Bring all the devotees together. So because of that desire, things are happening. We are sentient beings. We have our tiny desires. Krishna has unlimited desires. So you'll hear tomorrow that when Krishna desired for there to be a picnic, because he is unlimited and his desires are unlimited, unlimited cowherd boys and calves joined him in the forest for a picnic. All right, tomorrow. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.